The adult performer known as Stormy Daniels taking the stand in Trump's so-called hush money trial today. House Speaker Mike Johnson calls Trump's case a criminal conspiracy in today's press brief on Capitol Hill. NTD's legal correspondent Arleen Richards has more details on the trial. TikTok's parent company is suing the U.S. government over the ultimatum to sell the app. What's the Chinese company's arguing? Israel's defense forces have seized control of the border crossing between Rafah and Egypt, a vital travel route for humanitarian aid. Plus, negotiations continue over a temporary ceasefire agreement. Britain suspects that China is behind the hacking of the armed forces payroll system. Details and updates on the military cyber attack. California lawmakers vote down a bill that would provide information on pregnancy centers in the public school curriculum. We'll tell you why they're pushing back on the legislation. Apple has just unveiled new iPads, the iPad Air and iPad Pro. The new devices boast faster chips and better screens, and you can get them as soon as next week. Welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Chris Beers, filling in for Stephanie Cox. Former President Trump is now back in a Manhattan courtroom for what could be called a dramatic day of testimony. The prosecution's key witness, Stormy Daniels, is now on the stand. The former adult film star says she had a one-night stand with Trump. We turn now to our legal correspondent, Arleen Richards, outside the courthouse with the latest. Arleen, this may be a tough day for the former president as he faces the testimony of Stormy Daniels. So far, she's testified that she had dinner with him in his hotel suite, and she says he told her he didn't sleep in the same room with Melania. What's the latest on her testimony?
Yes, Chris, after the dinner, she testified that she went to the bathroom to call a friend and to kind of brag about being in Trump's hotel suite. And when she came out of the bathroom, she said Trump was now in the bedroom, leaning on the bed, only wearing his boxer shorts and a T-shirt. She then testified that somehow her clothes came off, but she doesn't recall how that happened. She says that then she started to describe the sexual encounter, but the defense objected to it, and then that part of the testimony was stopped. She said after the encounter, she then quickly got up, quickly got dressed, and she said that her hands were shaking really hard, and then she left. But then she testified that she continued to keep in touch with Trump afterwards, sometimes speaking to him once a week. And she said that her publicist recommended that she keep in touch with him so that she could get on The Apprentice. She also said that she saw him at several public events and that she engaged with him for the same reason. She then said that she stopped taking his phone calls after he told her she couldn't get on The Apprentice.
And Arleen, for the prosecution, the key part of Daniels' testimony is the so-called hush money payment she received to keep quiet about the alleged affair. Trump's attorneys have said it was extortion. What's her testimony about that payment?
Well, Daniels is saying that her publicist approached her in 2015 when Trump was running for president and told her that she could probably sell this story. Now, Daniels said that her publicist had trouble selling the story until after the Access Hollywood tape was released. She said then Michael Cohen and Trump approached her about buying the story. She said that her publicist wanted to sell them the story, but she wasn't really interested in the money at first. She said that she had enough money, she was in a good financial status, but then she recalled back in 2011 when a man approached her in a parking lot and threatened her for telling her story back then. And so then she had a change of heart and decided that it would be best if she took the money. She then talked about how Cohen was late in making the payment and how she became afraid at some point, thinking that something bad was going to happen. And then she said that if the payment didn't come before the election, it probably never was going to come. Now, after the lunch break, the defense asked the judge for a mistrial. The defense said that her testimony today was much different than her story was back in 2016 and that it was highly prejudicial to Trump. They said that they would never be able to come back from that testimony. The prosecution said that this testimony helped to show Trump's motive for wanting to keep her quiet. The judge, in the end, denied the motion for a mistrial, saying that it was too premature and that it was partly the defense's fault or their responsibility for not objecting enough. Back to you.
Thank you for keeping us updated, Arleen. As we learned, Trump's team is calling for a mistrial. We'll have more on this in NTD Newsroom, NTD Evening News with Tiffany Meyer at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. And former President Trump earlier this morning quoted media reports to make his point that there is no case.
Some of the statements made about this witch hunt on CNN, fake news CNN, Michael Moore said the proof of falsifying records has not been accomplished. On Good Morning America, they said, we heard that expense payments to lawyers are legal expenses. Also, NBC Today showed the challengers that there is no smoking gun, no email or tape to prove the president's intent. They don't have a way to prove that. That's NBC Today show. And then Fox News, Katie Cherkasky, said that the gag order is unconstitutional, which of course it is. The gag order is unconstitutional. So with all that's going on, they have no case.
House Speaker Mike Johnson commented on Trump's case in today's press brief on Capitol Hill.
These cases are a coordinated political attack, plain and simple. They are a clear attempt to keep Donald Trump in the courtroom and off the campaign trail. That's what this is. It's an election interference. It is borderline criminal conspiracy, and the American people see right through it. President Trump has done nothing wrong here, and he continues to be the target of endless lawfare. It has to stop. And you're going to see the United States Congress address this in every possible way that we can.
Today in federal court, the owners of TikTok are suing the U.S. government. A law is forcing the Chinese owners to sell the popular video app or face a ban on app stores in the U.S. The parent company ByteDance is arguing that the law blocks their First Amendment free speech protections. The bill was passed in a bipartisan effort by Washington lawmakers and signed into law by President Biden last month. It gives TikTok until next January to sell the app or face the ban. Lawmakers say the data it gathers poses a national security risk, and the content is tailored to influence young Americans. Currently, more than 170 million Americans use the app. And Israel says the ceasefire deal the Hamas terrorist group agreed to doesn't meet requirements. It has now taken control of the Rafah border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. NTD's Virginia Gibson has the latest.
Israel Defense Forces tanks rolled into the Rafah border crossing. The invasion injured dozens, many seeking help from doctors and medical tents at the Kuwait hospital. Doctors treating the wounded say the border closure is making things worse as much-needed supplies are being held up. Those supplies and other aid are stacked alongside the road leading to the Rafah crossing. A spokesman for the Israeli government says its military has intelligence that says the border crossing is being used by Hamas.
Now, underneath that large border infrastructure are cross-border underground smuggling tunnels, sustaining and providing a lifeline to Hamas. These Hamas tunnels must be dealt with.
The Israeli government sent warnings via the media to Gazans in Rafah about the coming invasion and for them to seek safety in the designated humanitarian aid areas of the city. According to Israel, the removal of all of Hamas from Gaza is the main goal, although its leaders admit this action won't entirely solve the problem.
We don't say this will be the complete destruction of Hamas. Hamas will still exist, but they will not be organized in battalions as they are still right now.
Meanwhile, as the talks over the temporary pause in hostilities continue, Israel plans to send a ranking delegation to Egypt to maximize any agreement on terms acceptable to Israel. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
Today at the Capitol, President Biden delivered the keynote address at the Holocaust Memorial Museum's Days of Remembrance ceremony.
But there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind, whether against Jews or anyone else. Violent attacks, destroying property, is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country. We're a civil society. We uphold the rule of law. And no one should have to hide or be brave just to be themselves.
The event honors the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust and recommits to heeding the lessons of that dark chapter with the words, "Never again." Biden addressed the horrors of October 7th, as well as what he called the alarming rise in anti-Semitism that followed in the U.S. His speech comes as the NYPD arrested 24 protesters during the anti-Israel march toward the Met Gala last night. The protesters marched to Central Park, defaced a World War I memorial, and placed a Palestinian flag over a Civil War monument. Colleges nationwide continue to deal with the fallout from pro-Palestinian protests. An encampment was cleared out of the University of Chicago today. Arrests and conflict continue as both students and individuals not affiliated with universities continue protesting. NTD's Fiona G. brings us the latest.
Early this morning, police cleared an encampment from the University of Chicago. The group had reportedly been mostly peaceful, apart from small skirmishes last Friday with counter-protesters. No arrests were made. Protesters reportedly remain on campus in a standoff against university police. Protesters at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology were given a deadline to disperse by Monday afternoon or face suspension. Many ignored the ultimatum. Protesters broke past police barriers. Brief physical altercations ensued. Hundreds of high school students also joined. Protesters remain in the encampment today. More than 400 also protested outside the home of Harvard University's president Monday. At the University of California, Los Angeles, 43 protesters were arrested Monday. They will be charged with conspiracy to commit burglary. About 50 people also staged a sit-in in a UCLA building. The university has shifted to remote classes for the rest of the week. In New York City, a day of rage supporting Palestine kicked off in the streets Monday. Anti-Israel protesters gathered outside Hunter College. They then attempted to storm the star-studded Met Gala, but were blocked by police. Protesters then vandalized a World War I memorial in Central Park and burned American flags. Hunter College has now shifted to remote classes. This morning, protesters also picketed outside the residences of members of Columbia University's Board of Trustees. Worldwide, pro-Palestinian protests have now spread to Europe and into Asia, and have sparked debates over free speech rights. Fiona G., NTD News.
New Yorkers won't be voting on abortion access this November. A judge found that state lawmakers didn't follow procedural rules surrounding passing constitutional amendments. New York State Supreme Court Justice Daniel Doyle says the lawmakers incorrectly approved the amendment. They were supposed to first get a written opinion on the language from the state attorney general. AG Letitia James's office did not comment. Democrats passed the Equal Protection of Law Amendment last year. It would address discrimination based on, quote, pregnancy outcomes or gender expression. Its provisions are intended to protect access to abortion and cross-sex drugs and procedures. Its removal from the ballot is a setback for Democrats who are hoping to spur voter turnout around abortion access. Should schools have to inform students about pregnancy centers? California lawmakers recently decided no. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with a pregnancy center director about the decision and why she believes such centers are performing an essential service.
Senate Bill 1368 sought to balance information provided to students by including resources about pregnancy centers, which provide reproductive health services but do not perform abortions. Kathleen Jones is the director of Life Choice Pregnancy Center in San Bernardino, California. She says pregnancy centers have a lot to offer pregnant women in need.
We provide the medical information. We provide the pregnancy testing, the ultrasounds. Some even provide prenatal care, well woman checkups, STD, STI testing and treatment. But we also provide community resources where we put clothes on the backs of our pregnant women. We provide clothes for the children. We provide equipment for the families, diapers, wipes, food, formula, car seats, strollers.
Jones says it is essential that women who are considering aborting their baby truly understand what they are doing. She says some people are not informed about basic fetal development.
They don't know that at 21 days after conception, that baby has a heartbeat. At 9 weeks, 10 weeks, that baby is what we would say done. All the organs, everything is in place. It just needs time to fully develop for birth. So from 9 weeks to 9 months, that baby just grows in length and weight.
The pregnancy center director wants women to know that help is out there and that people truly want to make it easier for them to keep their baby.
If this situation where if I don't choose abortion, then I don't have anywhere to live. We have a house for you right now. We have organizations that beyond the 2 years that we can keep clothes on your baby's back, we have another organization that we can step into that will keep clothes on your children's back. We have other organizations that offer a mentorship where if you come every month, they give you a $100 gift card to do with whatever you need.
Jones says it is not uncommon for women to return after some time to give thanks for helping them keep their baby.
We've had many women days after, weeks after, years after come back and say, "You don't know what you did for me."
The pregnancy center director says one woman who received help 19 years earlier couldn't find the center at first as it had changed locations. The woman ended up keeping her baby boy, who was recently appointed to the Air Force Academy. And the woman, she is now herself a volunteer at the Life Choice Pregnancy Center, giving back what she was given so many years ago. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
When we come back, Britain suspects that China is behind the hacking of the armed forces payroll system. Details and updates on the military cyber attack. And Apple has just unveiled a new iPad Air and a new iPad Pro. The new devices boast faster chips and better screens, and you can get them as soon as next week. We have more after the break.
A performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
This is an important message from USA Family Protection. You may now be eligible for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Mom, it's so great to see you.
Oh, you too, son. And I have to tell you, I've been thinking about the future, and it's really important to me that I don't leave you and your sister with my debts, especially the cost of my funeral and other final expenses, which can be more than $9,000.
Yeah. That would be really hard on us.
Well, I called USA Family Protection, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
But what about your health issues? Don't they require a medical exam?
That's the best part. There's no medical exam, just a few quick questions, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
That's really great, Mom. But can you afford it?
Yes. Rates start at less than $1 a day, and when the time comes, payout to you and your sister happens in as little as a few days. I am so happy to know you two are taken care of.
Thanks, Mom. Me too.
Don't leave your loved ones with your debt. Call USA Family Protection at 800-760-6571 and get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, just a few health questions, and you can be approved right over the phone. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call 800-760-6571. There's no hidden fees and no waiting periods to get covered. Call 800-760-6571. There's no obligation. Call 800-760-6571.
The personal information of Britain's armed forces have been hacked. British media says the hackers are linked to China. British officials said today that the names and bank details of thousands of serving British soldiers, sailors, and Air Force members have been exposed. In a few cases, addresses may also have been exposed. The British Defense Secretary is expected to make a statement later today and lay out a multi-point plan to support and protect affected service members. Earlier this year, the US and the UK charged 7 hackers linked to China. They were accused of targeting US officials and journalists, among others. Amid Chinese leader Xi Jinping's visit to France, several members of parliament stated that they have been continuously targeted by cyber attacks from the Chinese Communist Party. They plan to take action and aim to create a coordinated cyber defense force to eventually bring down the CCP's cyber military capacity. NTD's France correspondent David Vivez has the story.
During a press conference in Paris on Monday, Senators Cadic, Gatolin and a member of parliament, Le Grip, stated that they have repeatedly faced cyber attacks from the Chinese Communist Party cyber division.
In the middle of August, I was immediately warned by a government agency that I was under attack, and I was clearly told that it was thanks to data provided to them by the FBI.
Co-founder of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, or IPAC, André Gatolin, reveals that the attack came from APT-31, which targeted 115 members of IPAC. APT-31, identified as a branch of China's Ministry of State Security, stands accused in the US of orchestrating a cyber attack operation, which targeted a wide array of individuals and entities, including high-ranking officials and critical infrastructure sectors. Senator Olivier Cadic said IPAC members plan to create a coordinated response to face the Chinese Communist Party cyber threat.
We need to be able to destroy their systems if they attack our institutions. If necessary, we need to make China's bloody cyber war collapse.
The senator also revealed that an FBI source informed him that the FBI would need 50 times its current staff to properly challenge the CCP cyber attack capacity. He said he plans to mobilize members of parliaments within the IPAC and organize high-level conversations with US Justice Department representatives.
Europe alone, or the United States alone, do not have the critical mass to confront the attacks coming from the other side of China's cyber war. It is imperative that we work together as part of a cyber solidarity mission, but it also goes beyond simply bringing European and American services to work closer together. We also need to integrate the tech private sector.
Cadic also said he hopes governments will report any information of cyber threats collected by intelligence services to the members of parliament. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Some good news for Disney shareholders. One of the company's streaming services is showing a profit for the first time since it began running. And for you Apple lovers, new iPads announced today. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. So today we got 4 new iPads from Apple in its event announcement. Well, sort of, because we got the iPad Air and the new iPad Pro, and each of them comes in 2 different sizes. So the iPad Air comes in 11 and 13-inch sizes, and the same for the iPad Pro. So what's new about the iPad Air is that it now has a camera on the horizontal side of the screen, so that if you're doing video call in landscape mode, the camera is not on the side of you, it's directly in front of you. And we got the new M2 chip on the iPad Airs, which is faster than the previous version. Now for the iPad Pro, we got a M4 chip, and this is up to 50% faster than the M2 chip. And these chips are sort of the CPUs of the devices. And what else is new with the iPad Pro is that it has an OLED display. So this display is more advanced than the previous version. It can display higher color contrast and more color accuracy. So two other things were announced as well besides the iPads. One of them is the Apple Pencil, and another is Apple's Magic Keyboard, which is an accessory for the iPads. Now they're available for pre-order, and you can get it as soon as next week. Besides that, Disney Plus is reporting its first quarterly profit since the streaming service launched in 2019. The entertainment giant reports its video streaming division, which includes Disney Plus and Hulu. It has turned a quarterly profit for the very first time. It was a surprise to investors, as Disney had forecast that division wouldn't reach profitability for another 2 quarters, and some analysts and investors were skeptical it would happen that soon. The unit posted a net profit of $47 million for the quarter, compared to a $587 million loss in the same quarter a year ago. Disney Plus added more than 6 million subscribers, excluding India, that is, during the latest quarter, and that brings its total number of subscriptions to nearly 118 million. Meanwhile, Disney's sports streaming service ESPN Plus reported a quarterly loss of $18 million.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. For more business stories, tune in to NTD Business Matters at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. See you tomorrow.